Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of Anime Brain Freeze. We are your hosts.
I am John.
And I'm CC. And this is the show where we take a look at all the anime series from the previous season we did and didn't watch, start to finish. On today's episode, we got some sweet mag action for you, but first, John is gonna take out the trash, and it has Sega written all over it.
So, I went into this show with my expectations set pretty low to begin with, but it just kind of took them and threw them in the trash to begin with anyway, and I just say, you know what, I gotta watch it beginning to end. What show could I be talking about? Well, it's Phantasy Star Online 2, the animation, of course.
Everything that has the animation behind it is pretty sure guaranteed for quality, I guess.
Well, I mean, I'm sure there's exceptions to the rule that don't readily spring to mind, but...
Yeah, that's the problem. They don't.
Oops.
The first thing that comes to mind for me immediately is Xenosaga, the animation, and there's some other examples, but this is a game adaptation thing, right?
Yeah, well, it could have been. It should have been.
But it's not. So what is Phantasy Star Online for people uninitiated?
Well, to start with what Phantasy Star is, you got to go all the way back to 1987 when the first game in its series was released on the Sega Master System. That's what is that? The series is almost 30 years old now. God damn, I feel old. I always feel old.
But that was still just Phantasy Star, right?
Yes. But fast forward from there to the year 2000, and that's when the original Phantasy Star Online came out on the Dreamcast, and it was a gameplay revolution. I sound like
the rise of MMOs.
I sound like promo material, but I loved the hell out of PSO.
I think everyone did who owned a Dreamcast.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was ported later onto other systems.
I mean, I still do, and every once in a while I hop back into Blue Burst because there's a private server set up for it. Yes. Then you have to jump forward again to 2012 when Phantasy Star Online 2, what should be the more solid basis for this show, was introduced. And it was at PSO when the series kind of changed from being like a turn-based RPG to more of an action RPG thing. And I mean, you know, I love action RPGs, and that was kind of my jam. And to be perfectly honest, I don't know if there are going to be pitchforks cast at me, but PSO was my first Phantasy Star. I mean, I went back and played bits and pieces of 1 through 4, but, you know, it was the Phantasy Star I got to know most and I fell in love with, so...
Same for me.
Yeah, so when they were like, hey, we're going to have a show based on this game that's out right now, it's like, hey, all right. And then they went and just put it in the trash.
So that we have to put it in the trash now. So, I mean, how does this show connect to the game PSO2, if at all?
Like, tangentially, I guess you could say. All right, so our setup is we got this, well, if you recall our season preview from last season, we talked about this and how it was about this guy named Itsuki Tachibana, and he's a transfer student into this prestigious Sega academy. He happens across, you know, the student council president, who's this young lady, pretty much conceivably perfect in every way. Okay, all right, sure, anime, sure. Who's also like, let's play video games. Which one should we play? Phantasy Star Online 2. And if you're not cool, you're not playing the video game. No. And that's immediately when you know the show has a problem. Because, let's be real, any show, comic, movie, what have you, that's based off of another property is inherently a commercial for it. All right, fine. I guess a good example that I could spring to mind that I enjoyed was Gundam Build Fighters, because, you know, You could buy your Gunpla and build them all day long and have a great time, or you could watch a show where they build and battle them, and there's something inherently cool about the show because you see these creations come to life, whereas in PSO2 it's just sitting there playing the game. Oh
sounds
boy!
sounds enticing.
And I mean,
So
there's no doubt that PSO2 is a fun game, but
Mhm.
this show does nothing to convey that.
So, but as far as I've like realized from the first episode, you have not like the people sitting in front of the screens playing the game and you watching them, but of course they get transported literally into the game world and have their adventures there. I mean, is that the main focus of the show, or is it like, oh well, that sometimes happens and we battle monsters in there, but mostly it's like school life and then we play PSO sometimes.
It's pretty much the latter, although no one's going to care about spoilers for this tripe, so I'm just going to out and say that that does become something of a plot thing later on that they try to do, but I really feel like it was too little too late.
Okay. So it gets a bit weirder later on, maybe.
We end up finding out that PSO2, the game, is a gateway to a parallel dimension where, these worlds and these characters and these evil creatures called the Darkers actually exist. And the Darkers are using, like, the game as a portal to our world to harvest people who have an attunement to what's referred to in the game universe as photon energy. And it's like, what? Okay,
All right.
it's what
Okay.
it's
So
something like if you wanted to go that angle, you shouldn't have waited until 7 episodes in.
yeah, that's weird. It's like they want to sell you on like this. Oh, this could be you, and then well,
Yeah,
actually, this is a fantasy anime just set in the PSO universe, I
that's what it
guess.
should have been. What it should have been was a show that just summed up the events of the game, and you could have made bank. Each season could have been each episode of the game. Like, come on, that's a free idea.
I mean, I guess because PSO2 is kind of I've played the game too for a while now, on and off. And I guess because you create your own character in that game, they maybe had a problem with
I mean,
I don't know, anchoring is completely to some of the well to a character that could not be you yourself, so they
I
had to make a self-insert character.
I guess, but maybe because the fact that it is, inherently an MMO, they could have done something really out there and had like the player character change, the quote unquote player character change appearance, from time to time just to be, like, I don't know, I'm just spitballing.
Maybe they should have done so themselves. And of course, you could have based the series like solely on one of the characters that you come across in the game, because there's several of like there's a main cast in that game that you as the player run into several times.
Yeah, and I mean,
And
it takes some. They do introduce some of the named characters from the game, but again, they take too long to get to it. Like, you have characters like Kasra and Zeno, and my wife. I mean, Matoy. Matoy, that's her name.
bit of a slip up there. Anyway,
No.
why I was asking about does it get crazier later on and is it more connected to the game is because I played the game is in its fourth episode of episodic content right now.
Mm.
It's not like one big story. The story gets always like extended, which each new episode.
That's
Which
also the nature of MMOs. They
yeah,
they just extend it. They keep going as long as they can reasonably.
yeah, and I played. The problem is the game is currently only available in Japan, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, there is an official English language version on the service called I think Play Park, but that version is coming up on being like 2 years behind in terms of
Okay.
content. So that's not the one. If you want to play in English, sure. If you want to be up to date, that's not the one you want to play.
Yeah, and I played like the English patch version, and when I started, episode 4 was already out in Japanese,
Yeah.
and but the story content wasn't patched into English yet, so I had no idea what was going on. And So I went into this like, oh, okay, this is like normal PSO. You fight Dark Falls at the end, blah blah blah, and I just by accident just progressed through the story because this is, I don't know, this is getting into details. But before you can play like the previous episodes, for some reason Sega decided that you have to play the fourth story episode to a certain point.
I thought you could select the episode from the character select. That's what I was under the impression.
Not from the beginning. You first have to do have to unlock it.
Oh,
and
right.
I wasn't sure what I had to do in the game to unlock that option. So I progressed through the story, assuming that that would happen at some point. But yeah, so that's how that happened. And at some point in that story, suddenly my character appears in a Japanese dorm room after another character from the game gets like jolted out of the screen. And I'm like, wait a minute. Is this connected to the anime now? Is this like what happens in the anime? Because this
I remember seeing things about this, but I don't know about it because nothing's really translated, or I just haven't dug deep enough, maybe.
Yeah, me neither. The only thing that I just dig in through like a few message boards here and there found superficially is that apparently the game is episode 4 is set like a few weeks after the anime plotline. So apparently the game and the anime are connected now.
No!
To a very, very weird and very, very, very weird plot twist at the end of the anime. So I wonder if they changed it through if the series was just intended as a, hey, here's your fill-in character and these guys play at Sega Academy and this is all just a giant commercial and toy vehicle for the game. And then it turned into, well, while we're at it, let's have fun with it and connect it to the game in a weird way. And I wonder if what happened there. But yeah, it was really fun, like seeing that and just having this moment of, oh, what the fuck? Is this connected now? This is crazy dumb.
Well,
and yeah.
Maybe later on they'll start explicitly introducing characters from this show. I don't know.
Yeah,
the main character is pretty much generic, making no face to begin with anyhow.
Yeah, because it's probably supposed to be you, right? Like, it's supposed to be the character you create in the game.
I guess. I mean, he's a hunter with default black armor. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that's not the character I created.
Yeah!
I used a sweet-ass robot with a cowboy hat. So, anyway, getting back to the show itself, can you, like, even if it gets ludicrous later on and it's just a commercial vehicle in the beginning, can you enjoy it without being a massive Sega fanboy? So I mean, is it bland or is it so bad that it's good?
It's kind of bland, man. Like, I was hoping, well, I watched it because I am a Sega fanboy, but it was just like, okay, so what's going to happen? Oh, all right. They beat Dark Falls with the power of friendship. You know, not with high level raid gear or anything, because that's how MMOs work. Imagine,
but not anime.
Imagine this. Let me paint a scenario for you. Final Fantasy XIV, the animation, where they beat Ultima Weapon by holding their hands and just saying, Garlean Empire, go away. Like, no, I would not. Oh my god. And I've played way too much FF14. If they did that, I would just be like, no, see ya.
I'm done. Here go the last 5 years of my life or something.
3 years I've been playing that game pretty much.
Yeah, well.
And it's funny as a side note, because as much as I love Phantasy Star, you know, I've played it on and off over the years. FF14 is the one MMO I've played like consistently without breaks. So what does that tell you? Give us the game, Sega. Give us the game.
Yeah, it's weird that they're holding off on that. So yeah, I don't know if I'll watch the show.
Please don't. It's now.
Yeah, I mean, after I'm done like with episode 3 and episode 4 has been, you know, patched and I can actually understand what's going on. If the anime is actually connected to the game now, I feel like I have to, right?
It doesn't seem like they really connected it to the game that heavily, other than, you know, named characters, Dark Falls. Hey.
Or I guess the concept in general, you have to know that you're actually playing in the real world just like it happens in the anime, but the actual characters and main characters in the anime are not relevant to the rest of the game or something.
Oh, they really do go full meta, and at one point you see your character and it just zooms out to your character is on a screen, on your screen. I'll probably be like, what?
Okay. Well, I wonder, and that's the one thing that might make me watch that show. But other than that, what you told me about it didn't like really sound engaging or enticing at all.
No, it's really not.
So, but still, since you are such a Sega fanboy, I gotta ask, what are the most ridiculous bits of Sega fan service in the show, and does it get as crazy as Seha Girls? Because that's a show about Sega stuff I watched and enjoyed thoroughly because it was really, really dumb fun and crazy out there and hilarious. So I wonder.
Man, Say How Girls, that show is fantastic. I loved it.
Mhm.
But the problem with PSO2 is I wish it had gone just whole hog. I mean, there's like little knots like
Whole hedgehog.
because I mean, you have moments like in the first episode. There's this big flower garden out in front of the academy, and then right in the middle of it is a flower arrangement in the shape of Sonic's head, and you're like, "Oh, hi."
Mm-hmm.
There's one episode where there's like a Virtua Fighter 2 poster in the background. All the other girls call this one character Aika, which I still firmly believe to be a nod to Super Monkey Ball. But it doesn't take it and run with it, which leaves me a little sad. We're supposed to, and we're going to reference this 100 million times before we're dead. A show like Bento, where it's like, look at this, look at all this Sega stuff. It has nothing to do with anything but Sega. We like Sega. Do you? Good.
Yeah, it sounds like the show should have been like either this giant, completely nuts commercial for Sega products, like Seha Girls, maybe that is super self-aware and doesn't take itself seriously at all, or it should have gone like the true adaptation route, actually adapting the game story at a point and not trying to do its own thing. But it didn't do either. So
Yeah.
I guess that's what turned you off.
Yeah, it really wanted to be both, and it couldn't pull off either. So
Sad, but what can you do? Game to anime adaptations are always tricky, just like game to Hollywood movie adaptations. So I guess we'll wait and see if maybe, I don't know, Tales of Zestiria will be a good one that's coming up by Ufotable. So
well, you'll have to tell me that because I'm probably gonna play the game before I watch the show, like I did with, well, if I even watch the show, because like with Tales of the Abyss before it, I didn't even watch the show. I was just like, hey, I've got this 40 to 50 hour game in front of me. I can sit down and play and have a great time. It's the best Tales game as far as I'm concerned.
I'm playing that right now, actually. So because I only watched like a few episodes of that show, but I think I'm gonna watch Zestiria because the first trailer looked cool, and yeah, we can do an episode where we compare your experience with the game and my experience with the show. I guess that could be fun. But for now,
I mean, I'll get back to you after I've beaten Exilia and Exilia 2. Oops.
All right, so it might be a while, people, until we do that. Anyway, but for now, it seems like PSO2 is not the game to anime adaptation you want to watch in your spare time. So
yeah, and some of these game adaptations that have been coming out of the works lately, like Gyakuten Saibon is rough, but before that we had Persona 4 the animation. It was great. It was fantastic.
it sounds like a few people didn't like that one either. So I don't know.
I mean, yeah,
I haven't watched it.
I mean, yeah, it had its hiccups, but for the most part, I thought it was really good because the character designs were all really recognizable. They used like key songs from the game, so it felt very comfortable and familiar, which is what is something that I believe you should be going for.
Okay.
But
well, maybe we'll get another good we get a good PSO anime sometime in the future. I don't know.
I'm not holding
this
my
time.
breath.
So the show we're going to talk in our review today is Mobile Suit Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans, and the first season of that, because that's getting a second one. I don't know, when are we getting the second one?
I believe October.
All right, okay, yeah, so that's some time off until then. But yeah, the first season wrapped up with 26 episodes, I think. Was it 26 or 24?
25.
Great, right. Right, two estimations. Okay, who could have seen this coming? But anyway, 25 episodes, yes. And that's why we decided to do a review on it, because other than the shows that have like 13 episodes in one season, I think with this one there's enough meat to talk about it before, waiting for another season or waiting for the show to wrap up. So yeah, let's do that now. Of course, I guess anyone who has ever watched anime for a longer time knows what Gundam is. It's just your giant-ass robots, and most of the Gundam stuff is about, Earth battling against the colonies out in outer space. And this is kind of in the same vein, obviously, but a bit different here and there. So, yeah, let's get the basic story set up out of the way here. Our story starts on Mars, not on one of the colonies surrounding Earth, weird enough. 300 years ago, like before the show is, set, there was like this big conflict surrounding Earth and the colonies in space and the colonized planets. And that conflict was named the Calamity War, and it pretty much shook up all the colonized parts of the solar system. And the previous system of government was destroyed, and basically a new world order was created and established. And in this world, two of our main characters, the young orphans Orga and Mikazuki, work for a mercenary group called CGS on Mars that gets hired to escort a girl named Cordelia Ina Bernstein. So they're hired to escort her to Earth because she's like a member of an important family on Mars, like influential one, and she has it set in her head to liberate Mars, or basically the city she's living in, from the rule of the Earth government, and wants to go to Earth and I think give a speech to the ruling powers there about that matter. And yeah, of course, not everyone is happy with her plans, like, raising attention about the bad conditions on Mars and everything, and changing the status quo. So she and CGS get attacked by the military peacekeeping organization called Gjallarhorn, which is a group that has been established during the Calamity War to end said war. And they have like the superior weaponry, like they basically have all the Gundam-esque robots. I don't think those are called Gundams in the beginning. At least their robots are not, but I'm not sure.
Well, later on they refer to certain mechs as having Gundam frames, so...
Yeah. So, yeah, they're the superior military power, and they're attacking CGS and Cordelia. I don't know if they want to kill her or get her out of there or something, abduct her, I don't remember, but yeah, still, they're attacking her, and one of our main characters, Orga, we've mentioned before, uses this chaos that is caused by the attack of Gjallarhorn to stage a coup in CGS in order to overthrow their current leaders, because they have been using him and the other orphans, the other kids in this group, the other kid soldiers, as cannon fodder for most of their assignments. So a lot of Orga's friends and surrogate family died, and he is not content with that and wants to establish a new way, a new order himself for this organization, which consists of basically like shooting one of the leaders right in the face when he tries to bargain with Orga. So it's very cool, but still. Or they killed several of the leaders, actually. I don't remember if they kill all of them, but yeah.
They kill a great deal, many of them, so...
It's a violent coup, but yeah. That happens, and during that, Mikazuki, one of the other two main characters, gets in an old Gundam called Barbatos that was last used during the Calamity War and has apparently since been stationed for some reason there on Marth with CGS. I don't know if it was a secret that they had him. I guess so. But yeah, I think he was used as a power source or something.
Yeah, that seemed to be the case anyway.
Yeah. So he gets in the Gundam, and he has this, like some of the other soldiers in the CGS, or a lot of them, has this implant in his body that makes him like this superior pilot when it comes to interacting with Gundams and other robots. So yeah, he uses the Gundam to great effect and repels the attack of Gjallarhorn. And after that, it's mainly Orga and Mikazuki and the rest of the group trying to get Cordelia to Earth and becoming a powerful military force in their own right, like renaming themselves to Tekkadan, which is translated to the Iron Flower Brigade. And yeah, that's basically the setup for the show. And most of its episode consists of, or basically are Tekkadan fighting the forces of Gjallarhorn and other factions and groups intervening and getting into their path to Earth. And yeah, that's basically it. The show is produced and animated by Sunrise, as are all other Gundam shows. And I think, I don't know about you, John, but I think the animation in the show was really good for, a standard Gundam show.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it looked really nice. And the show is directed by Tatsuyuki Nagai. He has directed, what is it? Wait. Oh yeah, I think the most prominent works would be Anohana and one of your favorites, Railgun, I believe.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen Railgun, but I assume Iron-Blooded Orphans is the most action-heavy thing he has done up till now. I don't know how action-heavy was Railgun.
Railgun, it wasn't action-heavy throughout, but it did have some pretty intense stuff in it. So.
Okay. But you would say Gundam is still more of an action show than Railgun was?
Yeah.
Because I was really impressed with the fights in the show. Like, I've seen a few Gundam shows here and there, mostly from the not Universal Century stuff, except for Unicorn and the old movies. But this is really one of the best looking shows in the Gundam universe I've seen, in my opinion. And the fights were really impactful and good looking. At least, a lot of them were. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I feel like they were able to convey the weight behind the battles in this, maybe not more so than other shows, but, they did have a pretty grand impact.
And I think part of that is because Mikazuki tends to play around this giant ass. I don't know if is it a sword or more of a club. It reminds me of the Dragon Slayer from of Guts from Berserk. It's like this giant fucking piece of metal that he just wails on the enemies with.
Yeah, it really is more like a club. What he uses earlier on.
So yeah, there's a lot of weight behind that weapon, and the show conveys the impact that has in the fights as well. Like when he's drilling into the enemies and just, like I said, like waiting on them. It's sometimes quite a sight to behold. It's really engaging fights. And yeah, overall the art design is nice. The characters look cool. Bit unusual when it comes to, I don't know, their faces. Sometimes the eyes on some of the characters look kind of unusual. But interesting. It's not displeasing or anything. It's cool character design, in my opinion. Orga has weird hair.
It's anime.
Yeah, but still for anime. He's got like this weird bastardized version of Charlie Nash's hair cut from Street Fighter. It's really strange.
I didn't really think of that until you mentioned it, but yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
I guess I could say it reminds me, maybe just because, he has a darker complexion with the white hair. That particular combination is making me think more of Archer from Fate.
Oh yeah, that too, I guess. But still, Archer had more manageable hair. Yeah, but aside from that, no weird outcasts in terms of character design. You got your cute girls, you got your pretty boys, mostly in Gjallarhorn. Like they got They got the cuties for some reason, and the backgrounds look really nice. Like the overall animation, the presentation in the show overall, the music is real good. I was surprised to see when I looked at the pedigree for the music composer Masaru Yokoyama, to see like not that many good shows in there.
Oh yeah, I remember looking down there and I was like, oh, Queen's Blade.
Also Freezing.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, there's Hyperdimension Neptunia.
Yes, and I guess some people like Bubuki Buranki last.
Plastic Memories. There we go.
Well, yeah, but yeah, Queen's Blade and Freezing jumped out and was like, okay, so well, at least
he's got work.
Yeah, exactly, and he worked on a good show this time around, and his score is cool. Not his work, but the opening and ending are also pretty strong, especially the ending theme.
Yeah, the first ending theme is nice and jazzy, and it's super good.
Tears of the Orphans no Namida.
Yeah,
really strong, especially when the show ends on a really emotional moment, and the powerful singer like rises up in the background. It's really good stuff. Really works. Yeah, and the opening is strong too. Really action-packed opening. Raise Your Flag by a Man with a Mission. I don't know about in relation to the context of the show. It works, but I wonder if when I look at the lyrics of that song, if there's not some weird underlying messaging in that song.
Nah, there couldn't be.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about the history of that band, but whenever I looked at the lyrics, I felt a bit icky. So, yeah, whatever.
Well, I mean, if you want to listen to one of their even better songs, you could listen to the opening theme to Log Horizon, and just flail your hair around saying database.
Okay, let me do that after the show. I'm always up for good headbanging. Anyway, the show is written by Mari Okada. So she is kind of has become, I don't know if she was before, but has become kind of a divisive figure in anime writing. So she worked on some good stuff like Anohana with the same director, actually. Or, for example, The Woman Called Fujiko Mine, though I don't think she did the series composition for that, and the whole script, only a few episodes. But yeah, still, she worked on some good stuff. But there are also a lot of bad shows in her repertoire.
Like, I mean, I know Black Rock Shooter is one that people are really not so hot on, but
what about?
I haven't watched that show, and I don't know if it's worth defending her or it on it. But look at what source material you have to work with. It was a Vocaloid song to begin with.
Yeah, maybe she didn't give a shit in that show. So I would give her the benefit of the doubt there. I don't know. People liked Aquarian Evol, if I remember correctly. Or seeing it as improvement over the first season.
Was Evol the second or the third? It was the second, right?
Yeah.
I think people were kind of hot and cold about that too. Like, it had good moments, but I think a lot of people liked the first one better.
Well, and in this season alone, she is responsible for Lost Village, which seems to venture in so bad that it's entertaining territory. Oof. And also Kisniver, which I know we have like highlighted that in our sneak peek, but I've really cooled down on that show after its promising first episode.
Kisniver has moments of brilliance, but then they just kind of fizzle out as quickly as they show up.
Okay. Yeah, so...
But, I mean, she's done other stuff, like, she worked a bit on Rosen Maiden, which, it's a different kind of show, but it's fun. And another one she worked on that I really, really enjoyed was A Lull in the Sea.
Okay, I never heard of that, actually.
What was the Japanese name for that? Nagi no Asukara, that's it.
Okay. Doesn't ring a bell either, but...
it was, I think, the last PA Works show that I watched before it seemed like they kind of flew off the handle a bit.
Okay. Right. But yeah, so you see, she is kind of Mari Okada is a mixed bag. So I didn't know that when I started watching Gundam, so I didn't went into the show with any like preconceptions about her writing or any prejudice or whatever.
I would definitely say that Iron-Blooded Orphans is probably her at her best.
Definitely the best that I've seen so far, but I have only seen from the stuff she did that I've watched. I've only seen Aquarian Evil, a bit of that, and I've seen a bit of Kisniver and this. So I don't know how my experience with her writing is not that vast, so I have to rely on the experience of others with her shows that she's written. But yeah, Iron Blooded Orphans, definitely I enjoyed the first season from beginning to end. Some weird characterizations aside, I thought the first season was like really solidly written with some good twists here and there, some high stake battles and decent emotional payoffs. So yeah, I think she did good in this season.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So if you like read through the staff, if you like, hey, what could be a nice Gundam show or whatever action show I could watch, and stumble across Iron Blooded Orphans, and then you see her name on the writing staff, and you're like, oh shit, I hated the other shows she's written. So maybe still give Iron Blooded Orphans a chance, because I think she did good work with that one.
I mean, there were also like 4 other script writers that worked on various episodes across the way, so. Like, one of them, Toshizo Nemoto, yeah, he's working a bit right now on Macross Delta, so.
Oh shit, I haven't watched the newest episode yet.
And I mean, the other scriptwriters that worked on, like I said, various shows, like, we got here Durarara, Fibrain, Steins Gate, Lupin the Third, which we're going to call Fujiko Mine. That's not just Okada, but someone else. A little bit of Log Horizon, actually. So yeah, the writers have, they have been around, which is cool.
And some decent pedigree here and there. So yeah, okay, right. Like I said, solidly written show and enjoyable. And most interesting about the show, besides its main plot, it's got its, like I said, it's twists and turns here and there, but a lot of the stuff you can guess where it goes because it's a Gundam show, and these shows always go into a specific direction. In terms of theme, they're mostly about showing you the horrors of war and where the casualties lie in the conflicts, and want to tell you stuff about the human nature and why we fear war and what people's ambitions can turn into and everything. So Iron Blooded Orphans does the same thing, albeit like putting a few different, twists here and there on certain character archetypes and everything. So if you expecting a vastly different thing out of this show, like from other Gundam shows, I don't know. So far, it doesn't seem like that's what you're gonna get. I don't know what you think about that, John.
I feel like it had a bit more solid characterization.
Yeah.
Depending, on your opinion, of course, but
we'll get to that in the next section. But
yeah, from some of the other past series. So I mean, I just like shows that have the character pieces in there as well. Like for instance, this season, we both been watching Kotetsujo no Kabaneri. In the past episode, they kind of slowed it down, and we got to look at some of the characters, when they're not out fearing for their lives and fighting the Kabane, and I thought that was cool. And I feel like Iron Blooded Orphans does that a bit more than some of the other Gundam series.
Yeah, and that's important to connect to the characters. Yeah, let's get to that actually. Let's get to characters, because Iron Blooded Orphans has a pretty big cast, like a lot of Gundam shows have, but this one is kind of gigantic, and so we won't highlight them all, but here's some main players.
And imagine this when the second season starts. Boy.
Yeah, we're gonna get even more. Yeah. So I don't know. Let's start with one of our main boys, Orga. What can we say about him? He's a tactician. He wants the best for his surrogate family, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, he's trying to be the big protector of the clan, and he does what he can to keep everyone safe. But early on, he kind of starts to realize, these big lofty ambitions of his, he can't realize them all. And he's
at least not at once. Yeah.
And he's presented with the reality that, hey, kid, you got to slow it down just a bit because you are a kid. And that hits him pretty hard and fast, and I feel like we feel that impact on him, and it's very real.
Yeah, and it makes him I think he's in general a very sympathetic character, because he's one of the most relatable ones. Even though saying relatable, we are not war orphans, but it's still like he's one of the characters you can connect to, even if he's like this kind of not super brain, but he's like the ace in the hole guy. He's like or ace up his sleeve guy who has always kind of a master plan and knows what to do to get out of a bad situation most of the time. So maybe that's a bit too outlandish for some people to connect to, but still, he's like, in terms of his human nature and what his goals are and what he wants out of his life, he is very sympathetic and relatable, in my opinion.
Mm.
And yeah, we're going to talk about Mikazuki later because he's one of the, in my opinion, he's probably the most interesting character for a specific reason, to me anyway. But he promises Mikazuki to take him to a place where they can both belong, which is also like a nice setup for the show and their relationship. Like they're both really loyal to each other, and Orga relies heavily on Mikazuki to handle like most of the fighting and the most difficult and dangerous missions. And not because he thinks that Mikazuki is expendable, but he just trusts him so much in his abilities.
They definitely have like a symbiotic relationship because
Yeah.
it's very clear that they count on each other in many different ways.
I'll get to that later, especially to that symbiotic part. And yeah, but let's get to first some of the other players first. Another character from Tekkadan is Biscuit. He has a funny name.
Well,
he's a fat guy named Biscuit. Yay, anime.
and he's got two little sisters named Cookie and Cracker. So there you go.
Yeah. Best naming ever. Yeah, he's the if Orga isn't, he is the heart of the group. Like he's the voice of reason and diplomacy, and he's always like a bit, I don't know, timid and unsure of certain things, and doesn't always like speak out loudly.
He's a bit more careful, I feel like.
Yeah, he wants safety and a good life for his sisters mainly. That's just like his goal, and of course, he also wants Tekkadan to succeed, and he is a friend of Orga and everything. And yeah, he wants to build a good life for the whole group, just like Orga. He's just, a bit more careful, like you said, about it, and in some points realistic because he doesn't succumb to blind idealism in certain parts as easy as other characters. He's always like the guy who says, well, it won't be that easy, and expect this to happen and stuff like that. So yeah, he's the voice of reason. Then we have Cordelia, which is our, I would say, main female protagonist. She is, a strong-willed person who has who's like the most idealistic person, but also what comes with that is she's kind of naive when it comes to the reality of war. She gets into the whole free Mars, blah, 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 shit out of noble aspirations and ideas, but
she doesn't really understand what that all entails.
Exactly. She doesn't know what it means. She doesn't really know what she has to do. She's like, I get down to, I don't know, the Senate or something on Earth and talk to them, and sure, they will see reason, and yeah, that's that's not how this works. I mean, that's a nice idea and good for you, but yeah, that's not gonna work out. Like, it's not gonna work out like that, especially not as easily as you think it will. And she gets pulled into like this bigger conflict than she had anticipated, and comes across a bit of a puppet of to higher powers sometimes, even if she's not aware of it.
Yeah, she kind of gets painted as like what do they call her, the Maiden of the Revolution.
Yeah,
Kind of very much against her will, and it's just like a big, like, maybe not paparazzi, but it seems like a big media, not really, I don't want to say the word scheme, but that's just how it sort of happens to her, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think you're right with that. I think it's a scheme by certain factions who want to paint her in a specific light, and initially I think it's to make her a sacrifice to spark the revolution. But because of Tekkadan, some things don't go as certain people have planned, and I mean, she is kind of a chess piece, but in certain at some point she at least makes that idea of the Maiden of Revolution her own.
Mm.
Like she's not convinced about that from the beginning, but in later point she like really she makes that her own idea and her own ideal, and is convincing herself that this is the right way to go and this is who she is supposed to be. There are several parts in that show that make her convert to the idea that she could be that person, and she is dedicated to that later on. She really is really devoted to becoming that person and to help the people in her life, and not only in her life but in Mars in general, to gain freedom and make the world better, as you would say.
Yeah.
Another important character is on the other side of the conflict is McGillis Farid. He's a young Yellowhorn officer who seems to be, very polite and pretty and concerned with the well-being of his friends and everything. And he is very formidable fighter, and he is the adopted son of the influential Farid family, who have a big part in Yellowhorn and Earth politics and everything. And he becomes a big player the further the season progresses, because it turns out he has his own plans for Yellowhorn and his, own little big and machinations running behind the scenes and everything. He's quite invested in the conflict of the show and realizes his goals as well. I think he was an interesting character. I don't know how you felt about him.
He was very conniving. Not, and I don't use that word in negative context, but just
even more so than Orga. He's the guy who has the master plan.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear from the moment you meet him. It's like, sure you don't want to keep an eye on this guy?
Yeah.
But no, I think it makes him, interesting too. It's because it leaves you kind of wondering what exactly is he driving at? How is he going to get there when he's I don't know if you call me cog in the machine, because he's higher up than like other grunt soldiers, of course,
but he acts like he is a cog in the machine when he really kind of isn't, or is trying to get out of that.
Well, that's probably just to conceal his motivations, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's by the end of the show we don't really know any specifics of what his real goal is. By the end of the season, we see what he's doing to accomplish them, but we don't really know where his motivation comes from and everything. So I assume the second season will elaborate a lot more on his character. We see him, playing certain moves and everything to get to a specific part and in the conflict, but we can't really tell what his end game is at this point.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to seeing that, because I hope it's something interesting, and he doesn't fall flat at the end. But so far he's like an interesting half antagonist. I say half because he's not on against like our main heroes all the time. It's really I don't want to give too much away, but he, like I said, he's an interesting character, and he doesn't play only for one side, I would say.
Yeah, it seems like the wheels are spinning. Let me see how this plays out so I can get in there, sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Let me rephrase my previous statement. Like, he's not playing for like, if he's playing for one side, it's his own side.
Yes.
And you can't be sure what that entails at this point. Like, who is going to be left on the wayside for him to achieve his goals? And so that's interesting. And
I mean, there's hints about like reformation within Gallarhorn, but again, there's not much on the table for details.
Yeah, exactly. How does that reformation look? What does he think the new Gallarhorn should be and everything? So
what's your end game, man?
And why exactly does he want to change it? I mean, he's in a pretty cozy position where he is in right now, and for some reason he is not content with that. So looking forward to more on him in the coming season. Another character we have, or a slew of characters, I would say, is the Turbines, which is a crew of soldiers and a subsection of Tewas, Jupiter's biggest conglomerate. And they help Takadan to get to Earth later on in the season and integrate them into their mafia family-esque company. So they become a pretty important part. A lot of Turbine's crew like later hang out with the with the Tekadan crew and help them fight and everything. And Naza Turbine, who's like the head of that ship, becomes a role model and support for Orga, pretty much. Like he becomes like this big brother character or superior character, and who helps him out with his plans. And Orga seems to be really grateful about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very much a mentor.
Yeah, kind of.
And I mean, the crews, I kind of feel like are each other's. I don't know. I mean, you could say literal opposite, because one crew is almost entirely boys, and the other is entirely women. So.
Yeah, kind of. And it's weird. I mean, Naza is literally pretty married to all the women on his ship.
Yeah.
Like, they consider him his husband. So he has a literal harem on his ship. And this is kind of glorified in this series, I feel like.
In regard to his character, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, also to other characters, too. Atra, who, is another character who's a friend of the guys from Tekadan. She has a crush on Mikazuki and becomes like a strong member of the group in her own right, because she wants to help Mikazuki and Orga in any way she can. In one scene, she's being happy about the idea of her and Cordelia possibly becoming the wives of Mikazuki in that kind of harem system, that is a possibility, because she's afraid Cordelia can take Mikazuki from her. But, if they lived in a harem, they both could be his wife. And it was kind of weird. I don't know what the show was trying to say there, if that was Mari Okada having one of her weird character moments, and that, I don't know, that felt just kind of weird.
Yeah,
to me.
Yeah, that was...
Because she was genuinely happy about it and was like, oh man, I can be with the man I love, even though I have to share him with another woman, but it doesn't matter because it gives me like spirit and will to live. And it was like, I don't know.
It's like, how old are you, kid? Chill out.
That too. But I mean, Mikazuki isn't very old either, but still. It was, I don't know. It had like this weird undertone I didn't know what to make of. So, but yeah, we talked about, already mentioned like Mikazuki several times, so get to his character, because I think he's one of the most interesting ones. He's a weird one. He's not really sympathetic as a character. I wouldn't call him sympathetic. He's often parts in that show, he is more machine than a human being, and I'm not talking. That's not because of his implant. It's also a theme the show is running with, and later on. But still, he's very cold.
Yeah.
He comes across as cold and cruel even, and sometimes downright psychopathic in certain situations and fights.
Yeah, there's some moments where it's like you're never quite sure if he's 100% in control.
Yeah, exactly. He is damaged, and his trust and loyalty to Orga is so deep that he follows all of its orders without questioning Orga or his assignment. And it seems to me that Orga is like his anchor to sanity and humanity. One specific scene that needs to be highlighted in that regard is when Orga, and we are venturing into season finale spoilers here, so if you don't want to know anything about that, skip ahead like 5 minutes or something. So 3, 2, 1, spoilers. After a character death later in the season, Orga has like a moment of crushing feelings of defeat and self-doubt. And Mikazuki forces him back to his feet by reminding Orga of their like goal together that they have, like going to a better place where they belong. And it is implied that he's lying about the final words of the comrade who died, so that Orga's, will to achieve their goal is not further swayed if he mentioned that, if he mentioned the true words, last words of that comrade. So for me, it begs the question, if he is doing that because he wants to help Orga to fulfill their goal, for the greater good of Tekadan and everything, or if he needs Orga to be the reliable leader to know his own path in life. Because I feel like if Mikazuki doesn't have Orga's command to obey, he doesn't know where to go, what to do, or who he even is.
Because, I mean, as soon as he's done following one order, he just unflinchingly goes back and it's just like, okay, what's next, boss man?
Yeah, exactly. And he doesn't. Every time he's like, "I'll wait what Orga has to say about it, or about this," or "Orga will know what to do," or "Yeah, I trust in Orga, and I won't try anything else besides follow his command." I think their harsh childhood and the traumatic event that made him save Orga's life, which is apparently they were as orphans living in the street and they were attacked in an alley by someone, and Mikazuki killed that guy with a gun. And I feel like this is like was this and their childhood in general were so traumatic to him, and Orga gave him a way out of that, or showed him a possible way out, even it was a very, I don't know, very flimsy one at that point, or a very ungraspable one. So he clung to that, and that's probably what sparked his attitude and behavior. He became very narrow-minded and totally focused on Orga and the way out of his traumatic life and traumatic childhood and everything. And yeah, that's where he pulled his power from. That's where he derived his focus and his anchor to reality and sanity from. And I think he is afraid that if Orga, doesn't get to the point that is promised, whatever that point is, a point like where they belong, where they both could belong, that is a better life for both of them, that can probably never be realized in this war-torn world, that he would break apart, and he is afraid of that. And that's why he like drives Orga forward to this possible future that is like a very flimsy concept. Because they will never get out of that fighting if they stay a mercenary group, and a lot more of their friends will probably die. So I think like Mikazuki is like ignoring reality at a lot of points in that series, just to cling to, I don't know, his way of life and to his sanity. So I don't know if you agree with that, if this is a pretty outlandish interpretation or something, but that's the gist I got from that character. Like, he's this very damaged person that could break apart at any moment, and I wonder if the second season will have like his big turnaround in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely got that there's some issue early on. And I do wonder if that's, a product of, something that happened in the past that we haven't seen, or maybe because, of the implant of the Elia Vignana. But,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, other characters have that same implant, and they don't seem to have quite the same issues as Mikazuki.
Yeah.
But, again,
It's
these are all things that we'll hopefully find out and will be elaborated on this fall.
But that could also play into it, like you said. Like, he is already this character that is on the brink of not being human anymore, and him seeing himself maybe more of a machine, like the Gundam. Uh, and we had that in previous seasons, like Double O, where a character literally calls himself, "Yeah, I want to become Gundam" or something. Yeah,
Oh,
Setsuna from
Setsuna.
yeah, but yeah, this is like I don't know, a deeper version of that in my opinion, like, or it seems like that, because he's okay. I already got this implant, and I am very good at fighting, and I can follow orders from Orga, and he will show me. I don't know. Maybe he will show me a way back to being human. Or but until that, I'm gonna be this fighting machine because I'm good at it, and I'm gonna make him accomplish his goal that way, because that's the best I can do.
I also wonder if the name Elia Vignana will have any further significance, because it has to deal with like, I believe the translation is something along those lines of an all-encompassing consciousness or something. So I wonder what they're trying to drive at with that name.
Hmm. Yeah, I wonder if if in the second season we have like this weird twist where everyone becomes machines, and I don't know, maybe that will happen.
Or
Uh,
and this could be some crazy stuff that I think could be really fun. The what's the word I'm looking for? The implication of this multiple consciousness thing, I wonder if some other like memory of some kind is stored within these machines that they've been using, and by using this system they've been tapping into that, and they'll somehow do something crazy, like we'll be able to see details of like the Calamity War or whatnot. That, I mean, because that could be cool.
Yeah,
Or if they
interesting
go
idea.
even further back and like link it to some other Gundam series.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, that is always a possibility, and I think there is ground for that. To that could happen because they have been alluding to the Gundam, not really acting on its own, but like reacting to Mikazuki's impulses and feelings and everything. So yeah, maybe that's something that will happen in the second season. Which I'm really looking forward to. I really want to see where the show goes. I was really happy with the first season. Was really interesting. Couldn't relate to all of the characters, obviously, but was still interesting seeing them, and what the show was trying to say about them. I don't know if it will turn out well because, as we've seen, a lot of Gundam shows tend to like violently fly off the rails in their second seasons.
Yeah.
I mean, prime example for me would be Gundam Seed Destiny.
I could tell you for free, I didn't even watch that because.
Yeah, I enjoyed Gundam Seed, but to an extent anyway. But in Gundam Seed, Destiny started out very promising in its first episode, but then it just went completely. Holy fuck!
Well, because she had to keep Jesus Yamato alive the whole time. Shut up! Get out of here.
He wasn't even the worst character. I have a feeling they brought him back because Shin was even worse than him, and even more, and was totally unsympathetic. And it was like, how can we fix this? Let's bring Kira back. People liked him, right?
People liked him, and they liked the fact that Atherin was single-mindedly out to keep Kira alive. Like, why? Just get him out. Get him out.
And I don't remember how much. I think the second season of Double O wasn't as good as the first one either, in some regards.
It got a little weird, as I recall, but I don't feel like it was outwardly bad.
No, it wasn't. It was not as big of a letdown as Seed Destiny was, for example.
I mean, I think a lot of people also refer to Double O as very much being winged too, which they wouldn't be wrong.
Yeah, kind of. But yeah, right now, I'm optimistic about the second season of Iron-Blooded Orphans because the first season was really strong in my opinion, was really enjoyable. Looking forward to fall when we get more of this. I don't know if we will get a satisfying resolution to like all of the setup, but as long as we get like a satisfying resolution to the Mikazuki character arc or Mikazuki and Orga character arc, and let Megillus Farid's goals not be complete shit, and bland boring anime stuff, standard anime stuff. I think I'm fine. I don't know what do you want out of the second season? What are you most looking forward to?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm looking for, a lot of the same, and I want to know, like I said, what's the deal with, the Elia Villana, if there's anything to that beyond what we've seen.
A general, like, few scenes maybe from the past, and maybe have that connect to our current characters. Like, general, knowing more about the Calamity War would be interesting, I guess.
Yeah, because as far as I could tell, this was on, again, another different timeline. How many Gundam timelines are there now? Like, at least five.
I can't keep my man.
At least 5 or 6 that I readily spring to mind.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of Gundam story stuff out there, so I wouldn't want to keep track of that. But there are people out there who do. So
that's what people use wikis for.
Yeah, if you feel like you want to dive, like if you know nothing about Gundam and want to dive in, like there's a lot of stuff out there, and I don't feel like Iron-Blooded Orphans is like the worst thing to start at because it's pretty standalone right now and it works as a good like self-contained show.
Yeah, I mean the thing about Gundam is there's so many different series and a lot of them with the exception of, like maybe Universal Century as a whole,
Yeah.
there's a lot of points where it's easy to jump in.
It's probably not wise to like start watching Gundam Unicorn as your first Gundam show because I mean that's running right now, but that's also connected to the Universal Century stuff, and they acknowledge stuff that happens in the earlier series, and some characters make an appearance that have connections to earlier series. So that's maybe a bit of a, I don't know, more of a steep task to to get really invested in if you want to understand everything, because you have to either watch the older series to understand who some of the characters are and some of the events they mention.
Oh no, definitely.
Or read some wikis. But with Iron Blood and Orphans, you don't need that because right now that series doesn't seem to be connected to anything. We'll see if that changes. But yeah, it's self-contained, and if you want to jump into Gundam, might as well do it with this show, because at least, or wait until the final verdict and the final reviews for the second season are out and see if it jumped off the rails or if it stayed as strong as in its first season. So.
I am hopeful that it will continue on strong.
Me too. And that is a wrap on the 9th episode of Anime Brain Freeze. All the music in our show is from the Double Dragon Neon soundtrack by the amazing Jake Kaufman. Please go to vrrt.bandcamp.com and check out his awesome work. You can find us on YouTube, Twitter, iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and animebrainfreeze.com. Leave us a comment any way you like, or send us an email to animebrainfreeze@gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you had a good time, and please join us again on our next show. Adios.
Peace out.